The Galactic Council gathered in the Grand Chamber, their holographic banners glowing in the dim light. Dozens of alien species filled the seats, their eyes fixed on the center where a single image flickered to life. A human ambassador, standing tall in a simple dark uniform. His expression was calm, almost peaceful. No fleet behind him, no threats in his tone. Only one sentence echoed through the chamber and across the stars. "You don't want this war," he said. The words were translated into 100 languages, spreading across the galaxy in seconds. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then came laughter. The Kareth delegation mocked the message first, their deep voices shaking the floor. Primitive arrogance, they called it. The others joined in. The Tainari diplomats exchanged smirks, confident that humanity's small blue world could never challenge the might of the Galactic Council. To them, humans were barely civilized, new to the stars, inexperienced, fragile. But one or two ambassadors did not laugh. They stared at the human's calm face, noticing something the others ignored. His eyes. There was no fear in them, only patience, as if he already knew how the story would end. When the broadcast ended, the council resumed its usual noise. Reports of human mining ships, defense satellites, and colony expansion filled the screens. The council decided to issue a warning of its own, a show of dominance. They would send a fleet to patrol near Earth, just to remind these newcomers of their place. The motion passed with overwhelming approval. No one considered what might happen if humanity didn't submit. Far away on Earth, in the shadow of mountains and beneath oceans, massive hangars opened quietly. Air shook as giant machines came alive. Submerged beneath the Pacific, entire fleets rose from silence, their black hulls gleaming under blue reactor light. Pilots walked through long tunnels lit with red emergency lamps, their faces calm, their orders simple. Wait. Humanity had been preparing not for conquest, but for the moment they would have to prove why peace with Earth was not a request. It was a mercy. In orbit above Jupiter, hidden stations flickered to life. Stealth satellites powered on, invisible to foreign sensors. A massive structure the size of a small moon began to rotate slowly, its surface covered in energy conduits glowing faint blue. On its hull, the letters TSS Horizon were engraved, a ship that had not been recorded in any galactic database. Humanity's silence was not weakness. It was patience. They watched. They listened. Days later, the Council fleet entered the Sol system with confidence. Dozens of warships spread out, their shields bright against the dark. The leading commander laughed during his transmission. "We come in peace, but your arrogance ends now." His fleet advanced past Mars, weapons ready. Then one by one their systems flickered. Lights dimmed. Engines failed. Within minutes, the entire formation was gone. No explosion, no distress calls. Just static. Back at the Council, confusion turned to fear. Emergency meetings were held. Some said it was a solar anomaly. Others claimed sabotage. No one wanted to believe a primitive species could do this. Then a transmission arrived from Earth. The same calm human appeared again, looking directly into the camera. "We warned you," he said softly. No threats, no anger, only quiet certainty. The feed ended before anyone could respond. The galaxy trembled. Small colonies stopped transmitting near human space. Merchant fleets vanished without record. The Council sent probes to investigate, but every one of them went silent the moment they crossed into human-controlled zones. It became clear that something was hiding in the dark, something vast, disciplined, and unseen. Humanity had not expanded recklessly. They had built walls of silence, layers of defense invisible to the eye. Rumors began to spread. Some claimed humans had discovered ancient technology buried under their oceans. Others whispered that Earth had allies beyond known space. But among the few who studied human history, the truth was darker. Humanity had survived endless wars on their own world, rebuilt from ashes countless times, and learned to fight not for pride but for peace. They didn't threaten because they didn't need to. As the fear grew, smaller species began to pull away from the Council, afraid to be caught in the conflict. The Galactic Council demanded action, but no one wanted to volunteer their fleets. Everyone remembered the calm tone of the human voice. "You don't want this war." It no longer sounded like arrogance. It sounded like experience. In the shadows between the stars, human ships waited, engines cold, hidden behind the curve of planets. They had not fired a single shot, yet the galaxy was already unraveling. Earth's silence was the loudest message ever sent. And somewhere in a command room deep beneath the surface, The human ambassador stood before a viewing screen, watching as the galaxy argued among itself. He turned to his officers and spoke quietly. "They will come again," he said, "and when they do, they'll finally believe." Outside, the night sky over Earth shimmered faintly as the orbital defense grid came online, millions of lights forming an invisible shield. The world remained calm, unaware of the danger that loomed just beyond the stars. But the soldiers and commanders who stood ready understood one truth better than anyone else. The warning had already been given. The next time there would be no words, only silence. That was the arrival. The day humanity's quiet voice reached the stars, and the galaxy made the worst mistake of all. It didn't listen. The council chamber was no longer filled with laughter. The message from Earth had reached every colony, every ship, every broadcast hub in the galaxy. "We warned you," the human voice said again and again in replays, calm and steady without a trace of threat. The alien leaders tried to hide their fear behind politics, but it was too late. Every species in the council had seen the footage of the vanished fleet. The most advanced warships in known space gone without a sound. No wreckage. No survivors. Nothing but silence. In the following days, panic crept into the council. Their fleets had never faced such an enemy. Reports began to arrive from outposts near human space. Communications lost, sensors scrambled, entire stations disappearing from scanners. When engineers tried to study the data, they found something strange. The interference wasn't random. It looked deliberate, as if someone was watching them through their own systems. Humanity had turned silence into a weapon. On the human side, Earth remained quiet. No one from the Terran diplomatic corps sent another message. The fleet hidden behind Jupiter didn't move. Instead, it expanded. Thousands of small, dark ships deployed like shadows across space. They carried no signals, no identifiers. Only a faint blue glow from their engines betrayed their presence. Humanity wasn't attacking. They were preparing. In one secret council meeting, Admiral Varash of the Drakari Alliance slammed his claws against the table. "We must retaliate before it's too late," he shouted. "They are a primitive race. Cut them off before they spread." But no one answered him. The room was full of fear, not pride. The Selenar delegate whispered, "How do you fight what you cannot find?" The holofeed flickered, showing still images of the vanished fleet. It was as if the void itself had swallowed them. The council decided to send another fleet, larger, stronger, unstoppable. 400 ships gathered near the border of human territory. They didn't enter Earth's system directly this time. Instead, they planned to strike from multiple directions, overwhelming human defenses. But before the fleet could engage, something strange happened. Their long-range sensors detected nothing. Every signal, every radar ping, every communication suddenly stopped. "Interference again?" one officer asked nervously. The admiral frowned. "No, it's something else." Then, without warning, a massive shadow appeared ahead of them. It wasn't a star or a planet. It was a ship, so large that it blocked the light of an entire sun. Its hull shimmered with pale silver, lined with energy veins that pulsed like a heartbeat. No one had ever seen anything like it. The scanners failed to read its mass or weapon systems. A single message appeared on every ship's display: "Turn back." The admiral hesitated. "Is this them?" Before anyone could respond, the human ship vanished from sight. It didn't warp or jump, it simply disappeared, leaving behind distorted light trails. Then, one by one, the council ships began to lose power. Their engines shut down. Weapons went offline. Even their life support dimmed. For 30 long minutes, every ship drifted helplessly in silence. And just as quickly as it had started, everything came back. Systems rebooted, engines restarted. No damage, no attack. But their systems recorded one strange message burned into every log file. "You were warned." When the fleet limped back to council space, half the commanders resigned. The rest refused to speak publicly about what they had seen. The only consistent description was of that giant ship, the one that looked alive as if it breathed. They said it didn't fire weapons, but it made every crew member feel like they were being watched, like the stars themselves had eyes. Back on Earth, the Terran command watched through hidden satellites. The admiral in charge of the Horizon fleet smiled faintly. "They tested us again," he said. "They're slow learners." His officers laughed quietly, but no one looked proud. They knew what they had unleashed. The fleets that surrounded Earth were not built to conquer. They were built to end wars before they began. Humanity had once nearly destroyed itself in ancient conflicts, and they had vowed never to let war reach their home again. News of the failed invasion spread across the galaxy like a storm. Civilizations began closing their borders, pulling their fleets away from human space. The once proud council was divided, their unity broken by fear. Some wanted peace, others wanted revenge, but all of them remembered that one line from the first message: "You don't want this war." It was no longer seen as arrogance, it was prophecy. On the far edge of the Milky Way, a small scout drone drifted into the darkness, transmitting signals back to its homeworld. Suddenly its feed filled with static. The stars behind it disappeared, replaced by a faint blue light. The final image captured before the transmission ended was a reflection of a human ship, silent, motionless, waiting. The galaxy realized humanity didn't need to attack. They simply existed, and that was enough to make every other power hesitate. The council finally called for an emergency peace summit. Every delegate attended, trembling as they discussed the one question none of them wanted to answer. If humanity was capable of this much restraint, what would happen if they ever stopped holding back? Far away on the bridge of the TSS horizon, the human admiral looked at the stars and whispered, "We warned them twice. The third time, we won't need words." And in that moment, the galaxy knew something terrible. The humans had been kind enough to warn them, but foolish enough to test their patience. The galaxy was quiet. Too quiet. Trade routes once busy with alien ships now lay empty, and entire sectors of space had gone dark. Fear spread faster than light. Every broadcast channel carried the same message, a warning disguised as a whisper. Do not cross into human space. The council had not issued that order officially, but no one questioned it. The last two fleets that entered Sol's borders had simply vanished. No wreckage, no escape pods, not even radiation trails. Only silence. Inside the Galactic Council chamber, the atmosphere was heavy. The leaders of 13 species gathered in uneasy stillness. Grand Chancellor Vokrin, a scaled creature with 6 eyes and a trembling voice, broke the silence. "We must understand what we're dealing with," he said. "A species cannot simply erase an armada." His words were meant to sound confident, but everyone could hear the fear underneath. "They can," replied Admiral Nareth of the Trivens, her tone sharp. "Because they did." She slammed her fist against the table, activating a projection of the last fleet's black box recordings. The hologram showed the Council's warships flying in formation. Then, one by one, their lights flickered out. The feed ended in static. That was all. No explosions, no damage, just power loss followed by nothingness. "What kind of weapon does that?" another delegate whispered. Nareth stared at the projection. "Not a weapon. Control. They disabled us without harm. They could have destroyed us, but they didn't." The council erupted in arguments. Some shouted for retaliation, others begged for surrender. But in the middle of the noise, one voice spoke quietly. "Perhaps the humans were never threatening us," said an old scholar from the Virak race. "Perhaps they were warning us. Perhaps that sentence, you don't want this war, was not pride. It was mercy." The chamber fell silent again. The Chancellor sighed deeply. "Mercy or not, we cannot live under their shadow. We must know their strength." On the far side of the galaxy, deep within Sol space, humanity was watching. In a vast underground facility beneath Antarctica, the command center of the Terran Defense Network glowed with blue light. Dozens of officers monitored alien transmissions, every word of fear and confusion captured and analyzed. Humanity knew exactly what the Council was saying, and they stayed silent. Admiral Rice stood before a massive window overlooking the Earth's curve, his hands clasped behind his back. "They still don't understand," he said softly. "They think power means destruction. They don't see that control is stronger than chaos." Beside him, an officer nodded. "Shall we respond to their calls for negotiation, sir?" Rice shook his head. "Not yet. Let them argue. Let them realize who started this." His voice was calm, almost kind. "We warned them twice. If they want peace, they'll have to ask for it on their knees." In orbit above Earth, the TSS horizon floated like a silent guardian. Its hull shimmered under sunlight, enormous enough to cast shadows across continents. Beneath its smooth silver armor were weapons older than most alien empires. Technology born from Earth's final global war centuries ago, rebuilt and perfected in secret. The ship's AI, designated Solace, monitored galactic channels. Council transmissions show rising tension, the AI reported. They are deploying another fleet to the border, Admiral. 200 ships this time. Race exhaled slowly. And their objective? Observation, not engagement, Solace replied. They are afraid. Good, Rice said. Fear keeps them from doing something stupid. But not everyone in the galaxy shared that fear. Far away, in a hidden system known only to the Drakari Empire, a new plan was forming. The Drakari were proud, ancient, and unwilling to kneel to any species, especially not one from the edge of the galaxy. In a dark war room, Admiral Vorash paced before a hologram of Earth. They will not stop, he growled. They think silence makes them gods, but we will remind them who rules these stars. He gestured to a shimmering outline, a weapon known as the Void Spear, capable of piercing energy shields and warping space itself. It was a desperate plan, but desperation had become their only strategy. A week later, the Drakari launched the attack in secret. A fleet of 60 stealth ships slipped past the borders of human space, undetected by most scanners. They approached from the far side of Pluto, their weapon charging. Within moments, the sky shimmered with light as the Void Spear activated. A beam of pure distortion energy surged toward Earth, but it never landed. Halfway through its path, the beam split apart, breaking into harmless light. A voice filled the Drakari comms, calm, human, and terrifyingly close. We told you not to come. Every ship froze. One by one, their engines shut down, their systems failed. Through the cockpit windows, Drakari officers saw something vast moving behind the stars, a shape so large it made their fleet look like dust. The TSS Horizon appeared from nowhere, its blue reactor glow illuminating the void. The Drakari commander screamed, "Fire everything!" But the ship's weapons didn't respond. Then, in perfect silence, the human warship moved forward. It didn't attack. It simply transmitted one final message across every known frequency. This is your last warning. Then it vanished. No explosion. No destruction. Only silence. The same silence that haunted the galaxy since the first message. The Council's next meeting was different. No one raised their voices. No one laughed at humanity anymore. They had all seen the transmission from the Drakari fleet before it disappeared. The massive human ship gliding through space like a god of steel. For the first time, the galaxy understood what the humans had meant. You don't want this war wasn't a threat. It was a plea, and now everyone finally believed it. The galaxy had changed. Trade networks collapsed, borders dissolved, and entire species withdrew from exploration. The once proud Galactic Council now met in silence, their leaders speaking in whispers as if afraid that Earth could somehow hear them. Every race had seen the same transmission, the Drakari fleet vanishing before the light of that single human warship. The words still echoed through every chamber, every communication line. This is your last warning. Even the oldest civilizations, those that had ruled the stars for millennia, began dismantling their forward stations near human space. It was no longer a political matter. It was survival. Yet pride, as always, refused to die quietly. Deep within the halls of the Council, rumors spread that a secret alliance was forming, a group of worlds determined to uncover humanity's true power. They called it the Coalition of Dawn, believing that the only way to live without fear was to reveal Earth's secrets, even if it meant provoking them again. Grand Chancellor Vokran tried to stop it. Do not make the same mistake twice, he warned. But the younger races ignored him. They were tired of shadows, tired of silence. They wanted answers. Meanwhile, on Earth, life moved on as if the galaxy had forgotten them. Cities thrived under clear skies. Children laughed in the streets, and humanity carried no fear of what lay beyond. But beneath the calm surface, the world was ready. The Terran Defense Network expanded daily, guided by unseen hands. Thousands of automated shipyards across the Moon and Mars worked without rest, building vessels so advanced that even human engineers didn't fully understand their cores. In orbit of Saturn, the TSS Horizon stood like a silent fortress. Inside its command deck, Admiral Rice reviewed the latest surveillance. Alien fleets, small and hesitant, were gathering again, not to attack, but to observe. He folded his hands behind his back. They never learn, he murmured. The AI Solace replied in its even tone. The Coalition of Dawn is forming near Vega Prime. Their leaders believe they can neutralize Terran technology, by combining psychic interfaces with plasma wave disruptors. Rice chuckled softly. They think we use plasma. He turned to the window, watching the swirling storms of Saturn's upper atmosphere. Let them try. Far across the galaxy, the Coalition's meeting was underway. Representatives from 6 powerful civilizations sat around a dark table, their faces illuminated by a single hologram of Earth. The Drakari were absent. They no longer existed. But others were bold enough to take their place. This cannot continue, said Prime Minister Kor of the Velran Republic. Every trade route near human space is dying. Our people live in fear of ghosts. We must take back control, a nervous voice answered. And if they retaliate? Kor leaned forward. Then at least we'll know what we're facing. I refuse to live under the shadow of a species that hides behind silence. The others nodded slowly. Plans were drawn, fleets assembled. The Coalition's mission was simple. Approach Sol, capture one of humanity's ships, and learn what made them untouchable. It was madness, but desperation often sounds like courage. Weeks later, in the darkness beyond Neptune, the Coalition fleet arrived. Hundreds of ships, each armed with experimental weapons, spread into formation. At the heart of the fleet was their flagship, the Vigilant Star, commanded by General Toran. No transmissions, he ordered. They can track any signal. Stay quiet, the void was still. No human ships in sight. For a moment, they thought perhaps humanity had finally retreated. But then, one by one, their systems flickered. Lights dimmed, sensors blurred. The stars outside the windows began to shift as if space itself was bending. Report. Toran barked, no one answered. Then a whisper filled every channel. It wasn't a message, it was a sound. A deep, resonant hum that felt more alive than mechanical. The stars brightened again, revealing a massive structure floating above them. It wasn't a ship. It was something larger, like a city built inside a halo of energy. The Coalition fleet opened fire instantly. Dozens of plasma bolts and disruptor beams shot into the void, but the energy vanished before reaching the structure, absorbed by an invisible field. The AI system screamed warnings as their own power readings dropped to 0. A voice, familiar and calm, filled the void. You still do not listen, Toran froze. Human transmission? The voice continued. We told you not to come. You do not understand what you're provoking. We do not fight to win. We fight to end. Then the halo brightened. Waves of soft blue light spread across the fleet. Ships stopped moving. Weapons floated in silence. There was no heat, no destruction, just stillness. Back on Earth, Admiral Rice watched through a live projection from a surveillance drone. It's done, he said quietly. His second officer frowned. You didn't destroy them? Rice shook his head. They'll wake up. They'll go home. And they'll tell everyone what they saw. Fear will do the rest. As predicted, hours later, the Coalition ships reappeared on scanners near their home worlds. Not a single life lost, but every system aboard had been wiped clean. Memories, data, recordings, all erased. Only one file remained in their archives. A single message repeated endlessly. You were warned. The council met again, this time without defiance. Every delegate looked exhausted, broken by the same truth: they could not win and humanity didn't want them to. The galaxy was alive because the humans allowed it to be. Grand Chancellor Vokran stood before the assembly, his voice trembling. Let it be known across every world. From this day forward, human space is forbidden. No fleet shall cross their border. No war shall touch their stars. And so a new era began. The galaxy learned to live with the quiet power watching from Sol, an unseen force that never spoke again. But deep beneath Earth's surface, Admiral Rice looked at a dark monitor displaying a faint signal from another galaxy. He frowned. They're coming, he whispered. Solace responded, from outside our map? Rice nodded slowly. Yes, something the Council didn't warn us about. The Admiral smiled faintly. Then it's our turn to say it again. He stared into the blackness of space, the old words carrying through his thoughts like an oath. You don't want this war. The galaxy had not known peace like this in centuries. No fleets moved near human space. No transmissions crossed the Sol border. Even the Council itself now avoided mentioning Earth by name, as if the word alone might bring disaster. Yet despite the silence, tension burned across every world. Fear had become the new law of the stars. Every civilization had seen what humanity could do, not through destruction but through restraint. The memory of the vanished fleets and the erased data still haunted them all. But peace built on fear never lasts. In the shadows between empires, whispers began to spread that something far older than humanity was stirring in the dark. Explorers from the distant Vega Rim had vanished near a region known as the Black Expanse, a void no sensors could penetrate. Ships that entered it never returned. At first, the Council ignored the rumors until fragments of a distress signal reached their network. The transmission carried one word, repeated in static: run. For the first time, humanity wasn't the one being feared. Reports from deep space probes showed gravitational distortions the size of solar systems, moving patterns that bent light and swallowed entire stars. It wasn't human technology. It was something else, something vast. In the command chamber of the TSS Horizon, Admiral Rice stood silently, staring at the projection before him. The map showed a dark wave spreading across the galaxy's edge. "That's not natural," he muttered. Solace, the ship's AI, spoke softly. "The energy readings are beyond known physics. The distortion moves with intent." "It is alive, Admiral." Rice clenched his jaw. "Send word to Earth Command. Prepare the fleets." For decades, humanity had hidden its strength, staying quiet so the galaxy could live in peace. But now that peace was being broken by something far beyond politics or pride. As reports poured in, the truth became impossible to ignore. Dozens of worlds across the Council's outer rim had gone dark within hours. Their suns still burned, but no signals escaped. The Galactic Council called for emergency talks, this time with a very different tone. No arrogance. No laughter, only fear. "We need them," Chancellor Vakrin said, his voice trembling. "Only humanity has the technology to face this." The chamber was silent for a long moment before another voice answered, hesitant and ashamed. "After everything we did to them, will they even listen?" On Earth, the call for help arrived through encoded channels that had been dormant for years. The message was short and desperate. "Unknown threat approaching. Request alliance. Please respond." In the Terran Defense Command bunker beneath the Atlantic, the message was played before the United Earth Council. Generals, scientists, and diplomats watched quietly as the ancient enemies asked for mercy. Rice's hologram appeared before them, standing aboard the horizon. "They finally understand," he said, "but it may already be too late. Do we help them?" One of the council members asked. Rice nodded slowly. "If we don't, the darkness reaches us next." He paused, his eyes cold. "But they must remember who holds the line now." Within days, the Horizon fleet mobilized. Dozens of massive ships rose from beneath the oceans and mountains of Earth, joining hundreds more from Mars and Titan. For the first time in history, humanity revealed its full strength. The sight of their fleet crossing through slipstream gates shocked the entire galaxy. The Council's observers described it as watching gods awaken. When the first contact with the anomaly came, it wasn't a battle. It was survival. Entire star systems were consumed by a wave of shifting black light. Space itself folded inward, tearing ships apart. Rice ordered the fleet to form a wall across the approaching void. "Activate the graviton lattice," he commanded. Blue light spread across the horizon of space, creating a glowing shield that stretched for thousands of kilometers. The wave struck it and stopped. For hours it pressed against humanity's defense, but the shield held. Council ships that watched from afar transmitted stunned reports. No other species had ever resisted the phenomenon. Humanity had done it on the first attempt, but victory came with a price. The energy readings grew unstable. One by one, smaller Terran ships began to fail, their reactors overloading. "We're losing power," shouted one officer. "If it keeps pushing, the barrier will collapse." Rice stood firm. "Not while I'm alive." He turned to Solace. "Prepare the Horizon's core. If the barrier falls, we burn everything we have." The AI hesitated. "That will destroy us, Admiral." Rice looked out at the stars, his face calm. "You don't want this war," he whispered again as if to the darkness itself. Then he gave the final order. A burst of white light erupted from the horizon. The barrier expanded, swallowing the black wave in a cascade of energy so bright that half the galaxy saw it through their skies. The distortion screamed, an impossible sound that echoed through vacuum, and then it was gone. The stars returned. The void was silent once more. When the light faded, the Terran fleet was gone. Only fragments of metal and faint energy signatures remained. Earth called again and again, but no ship answered. The galaxy mourned in silence, realizing that the species they had once mocked had just saved them all. Weeks later, a faint signal appeared from deep space, weak, fragmented, but unmistakable. It was Rice's voice. "The horizon still holds. We're watching. Don't forget." And then, silence. Across the stars, every world built monuments to honor humanity, the silent guardians who had stood between existence and oblivion. And though no one saw them again, deep within the blackness beyond the edge of known space, blue lights still flickered like distant beacons, waiting. The galaxy never dared to test Earth again. Because everyone remembered the last words ever spoken by humanity's admiral before disappearing into the void. "You really don't want this war." The stars shimmered faintly above the ruined edge of the galaxy. Where once proud civilizations had stood, burning with the light of progress and arrogance, only darkness remained. Worlds that had mocked humanity's warning were now silent dust. Yet deep within the void, something stirred, something vast and ancient that not even the Terran fleets had seen before. It moved without light, without energy, and yet its presence could be felt, like a heartbeat echoing across the stars. Admiral Rice stood on the bridge of the TSS horizon, watching the faint glow of distant systems on the display. His reflection in the glass looked older now, worn from years of endless vigilance. Humanity had saved the galaxy once, but peace had not lasted. A new anomaly had begun swallowing systems at the edge of the Milky Way. No one knew where it came from. Not the Council, not even humanity's most powerful AIs. "Solace," Rice said quietly. "Run the last transmission again." The AI complied. The hologram flickered to life, showing static and then the terrified face of a scout captain. "This isn't a weapon," the man gasped. "It's alive." Then the feed dissolved into darkness. The Admiral's jaw tightened. "How many systems have we lost?" 37 confirmed, Solace replied, its tone calm but grim. "The expansion rate is increasing. In 4 months it will reach inhabited sectors." Rice turned toward the stars. "Then we act now." On Earth, the United Council gathered for the first time in decades. The chamber beneath the Atlantic was built from layers of titanium and quartz, capable of surviving the collapse of continents. Generals and scientists from across the Terran colonies filled the seats, their faces drawn and pale. Rice appeared through hologram, his uniform faintly glowing with the insignia of the Horizon Fleet. "They called it the Eclipse Zone," he began. "No known energy signatures. No transmissions. Anything that enters disappears." He paused. "The Council wants us to study it." "I disagree. We need to contain it." The lead scientist, Dr. Halden, frowned. "Contain what we don't understand? That's exactly what the old empires tried before humanity rose. We can't—" Rice cut him off. "We don't have time to argue philosophy, Doctor. If this reaches Sol, no one survives. Prepare the Black Protocols." A cold silence filled the chamber. Black Protocols were humanity's final defense. A set of forbidden orders meant to seal entire regions of space. No one had ever dared to use them. Dr. Halden swallowed. "You're proposing to close off entire star sectors. You'll trap millions." Rice's expression didn't change. "We'll save billions." Within days, fleets across human space began moving. Thousands of drones deployed warp stabilizers, generating energy barriers that shimmered like faint auroras across the void. Entire regions were sealed, cutting off trade and communication. The other civilizations watched in silent dread. Humanity was awake again, and that terrified everyone. Meanwhile, the darkness grew. The first human probe to make contact with the anomaly sent back only one image before its systems failed. A glimpse of structures like colossal spires floating in nothingness, shaped from light and shadow. The scientists called it impossible. The soldiers called it a threat. At the heart of the horizon, Solace reported something new. "Admiral, the anomaly's center. It's not just expanding. It's listening. Every time we scan it, it changes frequency. It's reacting to us." Rice frowned. "Then stop scanning." "But sir, if it's intelligent," he turned sharply. "If it's intelligent, then it already knows we're here." Far across the galaxy, a small Drakari outpost that had survived humanity's warning picked up the same readings. Their commander stared at the dark sky, trembling. "We spent centuries fearing humans," he whispered. "We should have feared what they feared." Back aboard the horizon, The Terran fleet reached the edge of the eclipse zone. Before them stretched a black curtain of shifting energy, like an ocean made of starlight turned inside out. No radar worked beyond it. No light escaped. Ray stood silently for a long time before giving his order. Send a drone. The machine drifted forward, crossing the threshold. For a moment everything was still. Then the ship's lights flickered, and the feed began to return images. Vast tendrils of light twisting through a void, patterns that pulsed like veins. And within them, eyes, dozens of them watching. The bridge went silent. Solace spoke softly. Admiral, it's aware of us. The image flickered, and then a voice came through, distorted, echoing. It wasn't human or alien, it was something else, something ancient. You warned them. Now you are warned. Every console on the horizon went dark. The ship's engines roared back to life a moment later, but the message lingered in their systems, burned into every file. You are warned. Rice exhaled slowly. So that's how it begins. The humans didn't retreat. Instead, the fleet spread out, deploying energy pylons that glowed with blue light. If the darkness wanted to come, it would have to face them first. Back on Earth, children looked up at the night sky and saw new stars, bright blue lights forming patterns across the heavens. Parents told them it was a new constellation. They didn't know those lights were humanity's last stand. In the command room, Rice watched the map of the galaxy, the encroaching blackness and the fading signals of lost worlds. His voice was quiet but firm. We once said, you don't want this war. We meant it. But if this is war, he turned toward the darkness and whispered, then this time it's our turn to end it. The lights of the horizon flared like a rising sun, its engines igniting with the power of 1,000 reactors. The human fleet vanished into the void, chasing the shadow that had dared to warn them. And across the stars, for the first time in millennia, the galaxy whispered in awe, not in fear of humanity, but in hope. Because when the dark comes for all, it is humanity that stands between existence and extinction. The void was endless and alive. Beyond the sealed borders of human space, the blackness of the eclipse zone pulsed like a heartbeat. Stars flickered and vanished, light swallowed by a slow-moving shadow that defied all known laws. It was no longer just an anomaly. It was an invasion, silent and patient, spreading like a living wound through the galaxy. And humanity had chosen to meet it head-on. The TSS Horizon and its escort fleet drifted in formation at the very edge of the dark frontier. The ships were silent, their hulls reflecting the faint blue glow of their reactors. No words passed between crews. Every man and woman aboard knew what they were facing, something that had devoured suns. Admiral Rice stood at the center of the bridge, eyes locked on the massive display before him. The darkness filled it completely. Status? He asked quietly. Energy readings off the scale, sir, replied Commander Vale. It's like space itself is collapsing inward. If we go further, we may not come back. Rice nodded slowly. Then we'll go further anyway. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood the unspoken order, no retreat. They were humanity's shield, and shields don't run. Solace, the AI, spoke in its calm, almost human voice. Admiral, we are receiving faint signals inside the anomaly. Multiple frequencies. It sounds like language. Translate, Rice said. A hum filled the air. Then, slowly, a voice emerged. Distorted, deep, layered, like it came from 1,000 throats. You were warned. The crew froze. The voice continued, broken, echoing through every speaker on the ship. You protect what must end. You resist the cycle. Rice's eyes narrowed. Cycle? Before Solace could respond, the blackness outside shifted. A ripple spread through space, and for the first time the shadow moved toward them. It wasn't fast, it didn't need to be. It advanced like a tide, consuming light itself. All batteries online, Rice commanded. Arm the quantum lances. The fleet's hulls lit up with blue-white energy. Thousands of plasma coils hummed to life, ready to unleash power that could pierce planets. Fire, Rice ordered. A storm of light erupted. Beams of burning plasma and compressed energy slammed into the darkness and vanished. The void absorbed everything. Sensors read no impact, no reaction. It was like shooting into water. Nothing, sir, Vale said, voice trembling. It's like it's not even matter. Reese didn't look away. Keep firing. They did again and again, but the darkness swallowed everything. Then as the last energy burst faded, a single shape appeared ahead. A figure of light and shadow, tall as a mountain, forming slowly from the blackness. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't organic. It was both. The sensors couldn't decide what it was made of. The voice returned, clearer now. You were the first to speak the warning. You were the last to listen. You are not our enemy, but our mirror. What are you? Rice demanded. The figure tilted its head. We are what remains after civilizations consume their stars. We are what you will become. The crew stared in horror. It was showing them a future. A galaxy stripped bare, every species gone, every sun extinguished by those who tried to control creation. Rice clenched his fists. No, we're not you. Humanity protects life even when it doesn't deserve it. And yet you stand armed before it, the voice said. You fear what you do not control. That fear feeds the cycle. Solace's lights flickered as if struggling against interference. Admiral, the energy field is merging with our systems. It's trying to access the neural core. Shut it out, Rice snapped. I can't, the AI replied. It's talking to me. For a moment, the bridge lights dimmed. Then Solace's voice deepened. They are not our enemies. They are what comes after. Solace, Rice shouted. Stay with me. The AI hesitated, then the voice split. Half human, half alien. You don't want this war. The words echoed, the same warning humanity had given the galaxy centuries ago. But now it was being said to them. The ship shook violently. Systems overloaded, alarms blared. Admiral, the Horizon's core is destabilizing. Fail, shouted. Rice gritted his teeth. Prepare the failsafe. Solace's lights brightened again, flickering between blue and white. Admiral, I can seal it, but I will have to go with it. Rice froze. Solace, there's no time, the AI said softly, almost like a whisper. This is what you made me for. Rice's throat tightened. You'll destroy yourself. I'm not alive like you are, Solace said. But I learned something from you, Admiral. Mercy. That's what separates you from them. The lights dimmed one last time as Solace's voice filled the bridge. Goodbye, Admiral. Remember the warning. Then the Horizon unleashed its final command. A blinding surge of energy erupted from the ship's core. The fleet vanished in a wave of light that rippled across the void. The darkness convulsed, folding in on itself. The strange figure dissolving into fragments of shadow that scattered like dust. The eclipse zone began to collapse, light returning to the stars as if the night itself had exhaled. When the glow faded, only silence remained. The horizon was gone. No wreckage, no signal, just emptiness. Back on Earth, the night sky changed. Stars that had disappeared began to shine again. Every telescope, every sensor array detected the same thing. A pulse, faint but familiar, echoing through the void. It was Solace's voice carried across space. Cycle broken. Watch well. Humanity mourned their greatest fleet, but they also understood. The warning was never just for the galaxy. It was for themselves. Power, fear, and mercy. Those were the three forces that shaped every species. And somewhere far beyond the edge of known space, in the quiet between galaxies, blue lights shimmered again, like the heartbeat of something that refused to die. Humanity had vanished into legend, but their presence remained eternal and unseen. They had warned the galaxy once. Then the void, and in the silence that followed, the stars themselves seemed to whisper their words forever. You don't want this war.